Elizabeth for asking me to share with you today. I am by no means the world's most foremost, I think I shouldn't have used those words together. Anyway, world's foremost arranger, improviser, but I have been doing both of them for a lot of years. And so I'm happy to just share with you what I do, kind of what goes on in my head. And I hope that along the way that you can, that it will be enjoyable for you, and perhaps you can learn something that will encourage you in your endeavors along these lines, either for yourself or for your students. Just as a little bit of a catch up as personally what's going on with me is, Elizabeth, you mentioned being signed on. And I was in fall of 19, signed on as an author with Alfred Music, which was very, very exciting. And we had 2 projects that were getting going. And then in May of 2020, I received notice that Alfred was closing their keyboard division. Oh. And so that meant that everybody that had jobs with Alfred keyboard division no longer had jobs. They closed the doors. They, any projects that were in the works were abandoned. If it was already ready to print, I think they went ahead and released it this year, but everything else just quit. And so that really left me, it really kind of rattled my cage a little bit, because this COVID thing happens and we're trying to find our way, and I'm used to doing a lot of performing and I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, well, I'm going to use this time to write. And I've got this contract. This is awesome. No, you don't have a contract anymore because there's no company anymore. So what has happened and transpired through that is that there's a man named Albert who worked for Alfred, not to be confused, even though I do get confused sometimes. Albert was one of Alfred's keyboard editors, and I think he was actually probably the copy editor, that he was kind of the top of the food chain with the editors. And we kept in contact. We just kind of had a good connection, even though it had just been over email and with just one project that we had worked on together. And so fast forward, he has been really, really instrumental in helping me pull together my own self-publishing company that's called Lifesong Publications. And I released some stuff in Christmas, and I've got more Easter stuff coming out. And so, I mean, I'm kind of figuring all of that out. I have learned so much from working with this man. I cannot tell you. And I'm going to be sharing some of that with you today. Let's see. So what I want you to go home with today is remembering that the art and science of arranging is highly, highly based on structure. The word structure is huge when it comes to improvising, to arranging. We like to think that the world is our oyster and we can do anything we want, but no, without the structure of what you're arranging, you won't land anywhere, it won't work. So we're going to be visiting various elements of structure today. I'm also going to share with you the structure that I use for my arranging process and some of what I've learned from Albert, because I think that it would be really, I found it very interesting, and I hope that it will be of interest to you as well. So he has gotten me straight on all of these steps that are involved in the production of an arrangement. And so I have listed those steps for you. I'm just going to go briefly through and tell you what what is involved in these steps. And these are steps that he worked through at Alfred, and now he's helping me do them. And he's also working with developing a publishing company that is based out of the UK, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit more because that's kind of exciting. Anyway, first of all, you've got to choose a song, and that may sound kind of usually that's pretty basic. Some songs don't lend themselves so well to arranging, but most of the time, if it's a decent song, you can work with arranging it. I I have to determine the basic structural elements, particularly when I'm working, if I'm just arranging something just that is kind of what comes out of my fingers, it's going to be in an advanced level probably. But if I want to arrange something at an easier level, which I'm trying to do now, is put out some songs that are not so difficult, is to determine my difficulty level, you determine the compositional structures. It's going to be ABA. Is it going to be theme and variations? Is this going to be a rondo? Having that in mind is really helpful in the beginning of the process. Determining the general mood, tempo, character of the piece, the time signature, and the key signature. Those are the real basic structural pieces that I have in mind before I start in with something. And then then I start improvising on it. We will get back to that in a bit. And once I've done some improvising, then I begin the arranging process. What I do is I find stuff that sticks. And then I start writing again. And sometimes I go in and I use finale. Sometimes I use a piece of paper. Sometimes I use I'll do a recording. I don't find myself using that tool as much, although I know that some arrangers use that a lot, to record themselves. Anyway, after that, then I go through the process of engraving. Engraving is actually getting the idea on paper. And one thing that I have really learned is that this is a draft. So now what I do is when I get these initial ideas in, I put the word draft on my title as a reminder that it's not done. It can change, it can morph. Just because it's on paper doesn't mean you're stuck with it. And that's been really helpful for me to realize that there's much more of a process than just, oh, had an idea, wrote an arrangement, done. You're not going to get your best work that way. Then I just go back and rework until I'm happy with what has been written down. Then when I have everything, I use finale. Once I have a document that I feel comfortable with and it looks like it's good, then I start going through and I add my phrasing and articulation dynamics. And I've learned that doing those one element at a time is really helpful. Then I go back and I look for mistakes, and then I proofread, go back and look for mistakes, proofread. Finally, when it's in good shape, I send it to the editor. He then goes to work. This is where I started learning some new things, is that there are a couple of kinds of editing. There's line editing and copy editing. Line editing is when they go through and they look at every single thing, and he makes little notes. He say, he'll change, like if the stem direction should be differently, then he'll mark that in. But if he sees a note, do you really need that note in that cluster? It seems to make the gesture a little bit more uncomfortable than perhaps it needs to be for this level of music. He gets really down and dirty and just shows me all of these little things to consider. Oftentimes I agree with him because he's been doing this a long time and I really, really respect his opinion. However, if there's a reason that I want to stick with something, then I certainly have that right as the arranger. And anyway, he goes through that and then he sends it back and I say, yes, it's all fine. And then once it's all fine, then he re-engraves it and makes it look all pretty and beautiful. And so in the process of coming up with that cover page, what the title page of your music looks like, he's actually using two programs. He uses Finale for the music, and then he uses a graphic design program to come up with the title, anything that's in text, the copyright notes, all of that is done in an InDesign file, and then the two of those are married together. And that's how they're able to put together songs for books and get all the page turns right and all that stuff. So anyway, it's a pretty involved process. Going through and putting fingerings on things is really tedious and time consuming. And I'm telling you, I have just gotten after my students when they ignore the fingering. I say, do you know how hard people have worked to provide that fingering for you? You should just have your eyes open for every single thing you can on the page because all of it took time. Anyway, to getting back now to, and then once that's done, then I have something to sell and I have to market it, and I'm learning how to do that. And that's a whole nother subject and not my favorite subject. This is the part that I really enjoy, is the process of creating an arrangement. So I thought what we would do today is just have you pick a song, and we'll just kind of start through the process and see how it goes. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking as we do it. So I need the name of a song. Somebody's throwing out. What?
Moon River.
Out of all the songs in the world,
Let it be.
let it be. Let it be. Amen. All right. Let it be. Okay. So, first of all, what do we want the mood, the character to be?
Uplifting.
Uplifting? Okay, so that means we're probably not going to play it. That's depressing. We won't do that. Well, so that was in the key of G major. Do any of you care about key of G major? Does that work? Mm-hmm. Okay. How many beats in a measure? How many beats in a measure are in this song? Spit it out. How many? Or hold up your hands.
Is it 2?
What?
4.
It's 2. 4.
It's a 4/4. It's a duple, right? Whether you want to treat it in
Depends
cut
on how
time.
many guitars you have.
Okay, how many guitars do you have? Okay, let me say to you who are educators, which are all of you, or those of you who want to dive into this, I think that the issue of how many beats are in the measure creates more questions and problems for our students and ourselves than we realize. They dive in and they start playing, and then they think, I want to do a little run, I want to do a little something, and they have no idea where to put it. And then if you ask them, how many beats are there in each measure? Well, no wonder you can't find a place to do a little 5-finger pattern scale. You don't know what your beat structure is. Back to that structure. Hugely, hugely important. Yes, I'm going to treat this as 4 beats in a measure. And if it falls into a cut time feel, that'd be really happy, wouldn't it? It would keep it really uplifting. Okay. Compositional structure for right now, we're not going to get into that because we don't have the time. But we'll just kind of, I'm just going to dive in. So, oftentimes I'm going to be looking for a motif, some little idea that can tie a piece together. So, sometimes I'll take it from the song. So, maybe something like that. And I got that from just the way I played that first measure. So I just kind of grabbed a little bit of something, repeat it, put a little change on it. So the first time, let's see if I can remember how it did. And I might then kind of save that idea and use it maybe after, if I do a verse, then I might throw that in as a little interlude. If you get these little motifs and you can use them here, and then you throw them in here and you throw them in here, it just takes everything and it ties it together. It makes that structure everything that you're doing cohesive and pulled together. And it's a kind of a fail-safe way to come up with an arrangement. So, as I, sometimes when I arrange, I will write out chord progressions, because what I find myself doing is I have a lot of ideas and I'll do it one way and I'll think, oh, I kind of like that. And then I'll do it another way and I kind of like that. And then I can't remember, well, maybe I could do both, but which one did I do where? So keeping track of what ideas have been collected because another nice way to be able to create contrast between two sections is to use a similar chord structure, but change something up, right? We substitute chords. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. When it comes to improvisation, that's the next thing on your list. I think one of the things we can really do for ourselves is to try and get the fear out of it, because we improvise in our lives all the time. We improvise in cooking, right? We improvise in conversation, in our clothing. Whoops, I was going to wear one scarf, that's not working. It's got a coffee stain on it. I'm going to improvise and I'm going to turn it inside out. And nobody will know that I have a coffee stain on my scarf. But we do that. We improvise all the time in life. So I've given a couple little silly ideas here, but just using the word improvise with your students as part of your natural conversation, even if you're not talking about music, I think is a good way to just let that word mean what it means. It's just a way of life for us. And so I've got, I put down here some, we can practice improvisation in our speech patterns with our students. So you can, and I've got these written down for you. So you can start by mimicking each other. So I can say, how's the weather? And your student, you're hoping they're going to go, how's the weather? Right? Or you can say, okay, I want you to say it back differently. How's the weather?
How's the weather?
There we go. Right, they did it differently. Or, how's the weather? How's the weather? I mean, just creating the idea of conversation, right. Of call response, give something, respond back, and there's no wrong answers. But to give your students parameters for how to respond helps them learn the different ways that response can happen. And the same thing is what happens in music, is that we respond. So you can start with your students. You can tell them what notes you're playing, right? You can give them, we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you play it for them. And then you wait for them to play it back. And then you go, and then you play it back. And then you can say, do it different than the way that, so I'm going to do it high, you do it low. And you start having these conversations. Pretty soon you're going to come up with some cool little ideas. You could actually write a little piece with them yourselves with these little musical conversations that are happening as you teach them that that responding to what you're hearing is and okay, going to move forward into, are there any questions at this point?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's not really tied to what we just talked about, but in the editing process, when
can you lower so I can see what you're saying?
When do you know, like, how do you know when to stop? It's not like just before your arrangement goes to the editor and you're still creating or finalizing your arrangement. How do you know when to stop?
How do I know when to stop?
You have so many ideas, right?
Yes, okay. So the question being, when I'm working on pulling together an arrangement to send to the editor, how do I know when to stop with the creative process?
Yes.
Or, okay, that is an awesome question. That's a real trick. I think it's really, I think it takes experience. I think the more you work with ideas, the more you start recognizing this is a good idea that I need to keep. And I start developing kind of this thing that says, I don't like that. So I kind of treat it as, you know, if you're practicing a piece that is written out and you're playing it and you can go along and you know, this is all working really well. And then you get to this one section and you go, oh man, I'm glad that's over. Because it was hard, or because you don't have it figured out yet, or you don't understand it. The same thing happens in the writing process, to where I can have something that was working really well, but every time I play through a certain thing that I've written down, I get this niggle. I'm like, I don't like this. It's not the best. What's wrong with it? And that will force me to go back and fix that. I think it's an experience thing. I really do. And so you just dive in and you just, at some point you say, does that work? Did it sound right? When I started here and I got to there, did it sound like it was right? And if the answer is yes, bravo, move on. I think that's really fine. Does that answer the question?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so when it comes to arranging, helping your students arrange, I think a really, really great tool to use is the fake book. Because it's got those basic structural things in place. We've got a key, we've got how many beats a measure, we have the chord progression, and we have a melody. And I have brought a few that I have used. This, and these are on your resource list at the bottom of the handout there. This is good old Scott the Piano Guy's favorite book. Students are interested in this because it's a piano guy's thing, so they think it's cool, right? Everything in here is in the key of C, which drives me nuts, but for our students, I think it's a good place. It's a good thing. He also, oh my goodness, Let It Be. There it is. I did not mean to turn to that. I just actually did. And he's got it in 4/4 for what it's worth, and the key of C. At the top, I don't know if you can see, there's actually little keyboards with indications as to what note you would use to form the particular chord. So this can really be used at a pretty early stage, depending on the student that you have. And then he also sometimes will give alternate chords. So like he'll add a major 7 to a chord where that would work. And so this has got a lot of, it's got songs that range, I don't know, like some movie things and some Great American Songbook things and Let It Be things. Then there's this big, huge series that Hal Leonard has out called, they're the easy fake books. And there's, this one is the children's, and it's got, this old man and a muffin man and Mickey Mouse March and Heart and Soul is even in here, real kid songs, but they've got a series of these with a ton. I mean, they probably have one of these for the songs in the 40s and one of these for songs in the 50s and rock and roll and jazz. So again, everything's in C, super, super basic. But again, if we're teaching our students to build on a structure, this is a really, really great start for it. Okay.
Colleen?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing though is that even though those are in C, they'd be great for transposition.
Absolutely,
as well.
yes, you can use, teach working with your students to transpose and learning the structure from what's here in these books and exactly transposition. Great tool for that. Good starting spot. There's also a resource that I noted in here that comes from this company called Top Music, which is, you should check it out. It's this teachers hub. It's like this resource for teachers, and it pulls from all over the world. And it's this guy in Australia whose name is Tim Topham, who used to be a teacher, and now he's gone on to start equipping teachers all over the world. Anyway, there is a resource that they have available. And it's 100 left-hand patterns every piano player should know. And I've put the information about this there. I have not bought it because I didn't want to spend the $60 to do it. But if this is something that you want to be working with your students in, I think it's a really terrific tool and a good resource for you. And once you have it, you can make as many copies and use it as long as you want in your studio. Okay. All right. So Let It Be. Where are we going with this thing? Okay,
Colleen, I have a question.
yes.
So when you're thinking about doing an arrangement such as a song like this, for me sometimes, I like to look at the kind of the historical context. And so if there's something quirky in it about how it was written, or, what John Lennon was thinking or not thinking. And to me, when you talk about motifs, I always remember that I'm playing for somebody who is really, really good. And so sometimes, and I know lots of composers have done it, but they hide little things in the music. And and when you talk about the science, I think that's what's kind of cool, because you can scientifically, musically, yes, but scientifically, you can put in a scale that people just go, really? And it just gives it that flavor, and it gives the person not only the 80% who just go, wow, that was really great, but there's always one person who goes, wow. And I always think that you want to, in my opinion, you want to find that person who goes, that was really amazing. You did something in there. I heard it. I'm a PhD in music at so-and-so, and I love what you did. And to me, that's probably the highest accolade I can receive. It just,
Yeah,
but contextual, historical
contextual, absolutely.
content, and there's some really amazing stuff that people don't know about.
Yeah,
And when you dig,
yeah,
you can, and then you can embed some of that stuff. People are just, wow. And I think that's what you want with your students. You kind of want them, you don't want to arrange. I had a pianist one time say, don't play in cliches. I'm like, oh, you mean I can't keep doing the same arpeggio? No, do something different.
yeah. Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, so really good comments. Thank you, Park. So could you hear him? Could you online hear him? Okay, all right. I think my head is chopped off. Which is okay, but then,
I don't know if
this
I
is not my
can
best
hear you.
feature part. There we go, okay. So he's talking about using the context of, finding out what the history of the piece is, or hidden little things that can be thrown into an arrangement. And I think that is wonderful to work towards that. If you're just starting out with your students, that might be a little bit over their head. However, sometimes if there can be another little tune that you could reference when you're coming up with this. Like I just did an arrangement of "Rejoice the Lord is King," which is Easter hymn, and I borrowed. See if you can find. I'm going to play something and then see if you can hear what it is. So this is the intro. You may not have heard it, but once I got up here, I went. And I was borrowing from "Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel," because they're rejoicing that he's come, and now we're rejoicing that he's the king. So that's my own little pull together, and nobody may even recognize it's there, but I knew it was there, and it turned into part of the motif that gets that I use throughout the rest of that arrangement. Okay. So basically, the business of improvisation, I think it's fair to say that I discover in that process what are the elements that I want to kind of leave alone, and what are the things that I can mess with. So, for example, if we do "Let It Be," and I could change up the melody a little bit. I suggested adding trills, change an octave of singular notes. So an adding trill would be, let's see. I just added whether that fits, I don't have to keep it, but I can try it. Another thing would be maybe to take one of the notes and play it an octave higher than it's written, and then come back down. So that's the original. I just threw a note up an octave and then came back down, and it changed it up, and you knew exactly what the melody was that I was playing. That did not throw any of you. Well, of course, you know what I'm working with, but. All right, so you can mess with that melody. Another thing, I stuck some extra stuff in there that wasn't even, it was harmonically had a root, but it was not part of that melody, but because I came back to it, it worked.
So I hear Floyd Kramer or Bruce Hornsby.
Do what?
Floyd Kramer or Bruce Hornsby in that song. So Bruce Hornsby, actually Floyd Kramer did it, but he did the oh, it's a brand new piano.
Mark,
Say no.
Park.
Yeah.
That's the Floyd Kramer, Bruce Hornsby.
So that, I would consider that a little bit more what I was doing with the harmony, but there is a melodic part to that. Rhythmic elements. So this, my friend Angela, who is here, reminded me of something that we did when we were working with arranging. And that is sometimes a student can get kind of stuck, right? They say, what do I do with my left hand? And so oftentimes we'll say, well, just play a pattern. Let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then they do that for a little bit, and they're like, I'm bored. I need something else to do. This is boring. So a fun exercise, and I'm not going to take the time to do it today, but is to have them. So that phrase, so if you give them, tell them to write out 4 measures of various combinations of notes that will get them 4, I'm not saying this right. They need to come up with 4 ways to play 4 beats. Okay, so they can use whole, half, quarter, eighth. So they might do a whole note for that's 1. Then they might do 2 halves. Then they might do quarter, half note, quarter. And then they might do 8 eighth notes. And if you add that to this, if I can remember, that was those 4 rhythms in the left hand. And all of a sudden you go, wow, what happened? And that was just using the structure. How many ways can I play 4 beats? And it gives that way, there is structure there is safety, because you can say this will work. There's 4 beats, back to that whole how many beats in a measure. Hugely important. So that has been a fun thing to try. And and then from there, you might find a pattern that evolves that you decide to want to use for the whole piece. Time signature. You can change up the time signature. What would that do? So if we play this in 3/4, well, that got cheerful, didn't it? If we change up the chord structure and we start substituting some things, instead of the 5, maybe we do the 3, right? So there I'm using substitutions, and you can all find, what what chords can substitute for what. So that kind of alteration. The voicing. So change the inversion. So maybe instead of starting there with the rooted beat, what if I start with the third? Changes all of a sudden the mood wants to go to a different place, doesn't it? So also, if you have a student that is familiar with their inversions, have them invert within the measure where it's being used. You know, just make that inversion. That's a good way to start getting the brain hearing some different things. Key signature, we talked about major and minor. Articulation, something that you can do is to play, just have your students play something really different than they would expect. So So I just made a big deal out of the staccatos. And if I combine that with some voicing, so that was combining more than one element there. Using dynamics, reminding our students that when they want to arrange something, they can change up the dynamics, they can change up the articulations, and that's part of making their own thing. It's the same tools that we would use sometimes in helping our students practice. Like sometimes, you know, there'll be a nice long legato line, and we say, I want you to practice this with all of those notes really short. And then we're going to go back and play them long. So the same techniques that we would use in teaching our students to practice well and with breath and how they practice, the same concepts are applying here. And then tonal range, where you play on the keyboard. Kids forget about this all the time. They sit down and they go, and that's where they stay. What if we say, let's just change this up. We'll do. Then they're going to start learning that if they do the exact same thing they did there, if they do it there, it doesn't sound as good, does it? Why doesn't it not sound so good? Because you've got too much going on in the left hand. We need to thin those chords out. So instead of playing a 1, 3, 5, we're just going to leave out the middle, and all of a sudden, we've got the bass. It sounds completely different than if I had played those exact same notes up here. Or and then maybe we combine them. So there I was doing the responding, right? The low, the high. So are there any questions? I just batted through a bunch of stuff really fast. What I've tried to do is just help you kind of help you see what's going on in my head when I'm doing this stuff. It's like, why is it that I decided to go down there, and then why I decided to go up there? And you realize how much it is based in structure. The structure is where it's at, and if you understand that and you're safe in that, you can really play around quite safely. You know, it's like sending the little kiddos to go out and play, and there's a fence in the yard. They will be much safer, and there will be much more opportunity for a wonderful experience than if they are just sent out into the wild and there's no boundaries, no borders, no safety. It's scary, you know. So, any questions come up?
So for teachers, I know this is a fearful space as well. So what are some of the ways that you would encourage teachers to feel like they have a boundary?
Teachers having a boundary, yes. I think to back to that improv experiment. You could even call that improv word experiment if that feels safer. But to take a song that you're teaching one of your students and do something different with it. So you're taking something that is very familiar, but you're spreading your boundaries a little bit on the wings. And to just play and say, how different can I make this? And not force yourself to play any notes that weren't written. I'm not even saying break out from what Bach wrote. I'm saying, what if you played in a different range of the piano? What if you, or, let's see. Yeah, that's real. Or try playing it with chords. What? That was wrong. But it wasn't really wrong because it worked and it was kind of fun. So that's the other thing. When you play something and you go, whoops, that was wrong. That was my teacher mode that just came out. Whoops, that was wrong. Reframe it. Go back and say, actually, that was kind of cool. I kind of liked that. That sounded great. And keep going so we get out of this right and wrong thing. There's a place in our teaching to have it be correct. For the rightness, for the wrongness, that's part of what we do. We need to teach our students to be able to discern between the two of them. But we also all know when you get in a performance situation and you're going, at some point you have to step away from that and say, this is an experience and I'm gonna ride the wave and whatever happens, happens. It's okay. It's okay. I will still be alive when this is over, right? May not win the competition, may not win it, but somewhere there has to be grace. And so I think having grace with ourselves when we are experimenting around and just try it and find the delight in it. Find yourself, just challenge yourself to say kind things and gracious things about the things that you're experimenting with. Even if it sounded kind of weird, who cares? Sometimes some of the weirdest things that I have played have turned into the coolest things I've played. Really, really. And it's just a matter of, am I going to shun this and say, oops, this was bad, wrong? Or am I going to say, whoops, let's just use that. And I'm going to take it and turn it into a possibility instead of a judgment. Okay. So I think that's a really good place to start. But just play the things that you're comfortable with, but just do something different and enjoy it. It's okay. Okay?
What are your favorite projects?
My favorite project to write?
Yeah.
I really like the Over the Rainbow, writing the Over Rainbow. Really liked that. There was another song that I did, and it's there's an Abide With Me that I have it on my website, but I'm redoing it so that it's up to snuff with the new stuff that I'm putting out. And it started, it's an old hymn. You probably all heard it somewhere. It's one of those songs that you think, I heard that when I was a kid and it made me cry and I hated it and I never want to hear it again, right? I mean, for me, it kind of evoked that kind of a thing. But then this past July, my choir director from college, he sends things out. He's just this fabulous, wonderful man. And he had sent it out to several of us. And he said, what if we listen to the lyrics of this as God talking to us, not us talking to God? And it just grabbed me. I mean, I read these lyrics and I was like, holy moly, that's different. That's amazing. And it got under my skin. And I thought, I have to do this arrangement. I have to do this. I never wanted to do this song, but now I want to because I have to get this out. And so I did, and I used the lyrics super. I just really pulled from the lyrics to determine the keys that I use, the context, the whole thing. And so that was really a labor of love because I worked on it a really long time. I do something, I come back and nope, it's not exactly right. And nothing's not exactly right. Now it's getting right. Okay, now. And so I spend a lot of time on it. But just because of that connection with my choir director, and this was in, we were still kind of getting, this was in July when all of us thought COVID would be over, and we realized it's not. And so it was kind of a new wave of dealing with life as it is for us now. And that was kind of a therapeutic, but I think it was really impacting for me, and then for several people that I shared it with, they responded in like manner. So that was a favorite too, although I don't think it'll ever be a bestseller, because that's not a song that is on the top of everybody's playlist, so yeah.
Would you share where we can find your music?
What's that?
Where can we find your music?
My music?
And I've seen a couple on sheet music.
Yes. So I'm starting to put things on Sheet Music Press. Most of it is available on my website as well. However, copyrighted music I can't sell on my website because I have to get a license, and I have checked into the licensing, and it's insanely expensive to do that, and you have to wait a long time to get the license. But through Sheet Music Press or some of these other online publishers, you are able, they take care of that licensing, and then you get a lot less money when it sells a copy than you do when it's on your website. So the things that I'm putting out are in Sheet Music Press, and so there are some Christmas things, the Over the Rainbow's on there, and there's an ocean. There's not a lot right now, but it's getting going, and so I'll have some Easter things, and I'll be putting out some vocal music, American music, vocal arrangements, as well as vocal solos. That will be kind of coming up next, and then got some Christmas duets that will be slated for this year, as well as some more Christmas solos. So I have my work cut out for me. I can't believe I'm taking this on at this age, but it is what it is, and it's the thing to do, and so I'm gonna do it as long as I can.
I have one of her early books because my mom would buy piano arrangements for me. And one of them I got for Christmas was hers, but I didn't know her. So then when we came here and I started meeting her and we had lunch the first time, I'm like, Colleen Adent, I know that name. Where do I know that? And I was like, that's right, you arranged that. Yeah. I have one of your very early ones.
Oh, yeah.
Colleen,
Yes.
I just want to say, you are so gifted. You are one of the few people that can read music and play as a concert artist and think outside the box and be creative. Most of us are not born being able to do both of those things. No matter how creative I try to get, I just cannot get outside the box. But this has helped me a lot. Do you know this? Do you know this book?
I do. I have not. I'm familiar with it, and well, because they used it, right?
Pardon me?
Zane did really well.
Yes, yeah, I gave it to Zane and he loves it. This guy, oh, what's his name? Forrest Kinney.
Of course.
He puts together little bass patterns and asks and puts it in a key and a time signature and asks you to just play the right hand any way you want to. So you have a pattern and then you go on a vacation and then you go back to the pattern, then you go to vacation too. And the kids have been able to put together some amazing things. And that is the way I teach improvising.
Wonderful. Again, it's built on patterns and structure. Right?
It is, yeah. And the knowledge of chords and keys.
Yeah.
He has patterns in every key in this book.
Wonderful. That's a great resource. I hadn't thought to add that, but that if you don't know about that one, it's put it on your list. Yeah, very much so. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was thinking of Forrest Kinney, and I was curious if you were familiar with
yeah.
that.
You know, I haven't found myself using a lot of that stuff just because I kind of wing it by nature.
Oh, I assumed like what he represents to me. I love that you're talking about that, Judy. Hi.
Oh, hello.
I love that you were talking about that because that's what I was thinking of, that you were incorporating all these different arts, the interpretation, improvisation, arrangement, and composition. So yeah, my question to you is, are you also a composer?
I do compose, but I find myself veering towards arranging. And I don't know if that's because I grew up, spent my first years in church, and the music that I learned was all vocal, you know, it had words attached to it. And I don't know. I don't know why I do that, but I do some composing. And so I've got my docket is full with trying to get some of this stuff out that I've got going, but I do have on my list to write some original things in the hopes that I can get involved with Top Music some, because they are developing a publishing house under their auspices, and the guy that's working with me on all my stuff is the guy doing their stuff. So so it's pretty Albert, yeah. So yeah.
Would you say you have stuff to get out? Are you under contract with companies now?
No, I'm not under contract with anybody but me, myself, and I.
So you're just self-perpetuating.
Yeah. It is self, but it's the thing that's been so amazing is working with Albert, because he knows the structure of what has to happen, back to this whole structure thing. And you know, so we meet every couple of weeks, and he's just been so encouraging and said, here, let's try this. Here's a spreadsheet, and let's fill in these blocks, and let's incorporate this. You know, he knows the technology well enough, so well, and understands the processes well enough that he's been just so, I just can't tell you what a godsend he's been to help me get this stuff organized so that I can make it happen. Because I've had some of this stuff to do, and I just always, and frankly, and I've been busy with other stuff. And, you know, I've got to get something ready to perform somewhere or whatever. And so I just don't, it's just not been a front burner issue. Well, now the time has come that it can be a front burner issue, and meeting with him and having deadlines of when I need to get stuff to him and having a process in place is the motivation. But no, I'm not under contract right now. I'm hoping to maybe step into that at some point, but right now I'm just trying to get what I've got really in great shape, and then I can see what comes from there.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Thank you for listening in.
Yeah, forgive us. I did all the air clap. Okay, I wanted to give you a more professional welcome because my last one was less than stellar. So her bio is on our website, but I'm just going to read the last bit. Colleen is a performing artist, educator, and arranger, and over the past 40 years, she has been commissioned to write and arrange for piano and strings as well as vocal or choral groups. And I think honestly, Colleen, that's one of my favorite things about you. You say, well, at this age, I don't know if I should. I'm like, no, you're not done yet. So, there we go. Air 5. And I think that's wonderful about our professions too, is that we're not done till we're dead. So we're gonna keep going. Okay, we have a 5-minute break, and then we will be back for a short activity and our session number 2 coming up shortly. So those of you online, please grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and we will be right back. 5 minutes starting now. 5-minute break. That's good practice.
Colleen, good work.
What?
Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Did you play something?
Hi, Lena. Hi.
I guess if everybody's gone, we can still visit, right?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. I thought I'm muted, so I'm unmuted. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I'm doing with this Zoom because I tried to do it on iPad, but it didn't work, and I didn't know how to get in there until Charlie came on and helped me.
The link that they gave us was incorrect. I had to
Incorrect,
call
yes.
in,
And
then I
nobody
had
actually, exactly, and nobody explained how to get into the Zoom. From
no,
this
it's well, I use
link.
Zoom. I use Zoom for one of my students, and then we do a lot of family Zoom times because Clay has an account through Clackamas. And so we've done Christmas and we do all these different kinds of Zoom, and he sets them up and he always sends me a good link. And one of my students has a Zoom account. So she sends me the link.
And I thought so just, you know, enter the ID number and you're there. And it didn't work. So yeah. How are you, Sherry?
Well, I'm doing fine. How is the audio for you?
Not good. Not good.
Really,
I don't
it's
understand
really bad.
half of the words what they're saying.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it might be better. It might be better if the presenter had a headset on.
Well, perhaps I don't know what that is. Just,
I don't know. It's not good. The audio is not good at all. I can't hear you.
No, not good at all. So I'm
no, the audio is not.
Can you hear me?
Not good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, but when they start talking, it's always like a lot of overtones, and they're going away.
Well, yeah, and it fades in and out. It's not good. I'm wondering if maybe if they had used a headset.
No.
Exactly.
I don't know why I can't hear you.
Elizabeth, the audio is terrible.
Do you want to text us?
I can't hear a word. Nothing. Just a little bit.
Elizabeth?
I thought I'm muted. I'm unmuted.
I'm sorry, Lynn. I still can't hear a thing. I don't know if she turned the volume on.
Take your Boston.
Oh. She turned the volume off. Oh my word.
Now I hear a little bit.
Making me. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm so confused.
I'm looking, everybody's talking. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Why can't I hear you?
Oh dear.
Okay. Now I can hear you. All right. Do you have your paper? Hold on. Liz. Hello. Listen to me. Is that one that you arranged?
No, it's a composition.
Oh. Oh. Okay, go ahead and grab your paper and your pencil. It's been 5 minutes. Yeah.
If I have to choose between here and
I'm going to
move that as one.
Should we move those into the
He's
kitchen?
about, he's here in high school. So I have maybe another 5 years.
Anybody who wants the demos, we're moving them into the kitchen area.
Hi, everyone. You might have the email, but if you don't have it, this is my handout. You're welcome to take a picture of it or a screenshot if you know how to do that. This is what we'll be covering today.
So, and from what I have seen.
So could you tell me all where you teach in Vancouver? Actually, Lena, weren't you Elizabeth's teacher growing up?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Hi.
So much
Now
about.
I hear you just a little bit because at the beginning I couldn't hear a word.
Yeah, I was.
The audio was absolutely not there.
Yeah.
So, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Wonderful. I've heard so many wonderful things about you.
Well, thank you, Liz. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah. Teresa, where do you teach in Vancouver?
What's that?
Oh, I was just asking Teresa where she taught in Vancouver.
Oh,
I'm in
yes,
the
I'm still in Vancouver. Yeah. Mhm.
I'm in the Salmon Creek Philida area.
Yeah. I grew up taking in Philida.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Sharon?
Hey, I met you at Gay's house.
I thought you looked familiar. I was like, why do you look familiar? Lovely.
We spent some time together, a short visit. So I look forward to hearing from you today.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I actually have been going on some masked walks with Gay and her corgis.
Oh, really?
We're going walking next Friday. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, please tell her hello. I email once in a while, but certainly miss all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sharon. What about you, Angela?
I don't teach, I take lessons with Colleen. And so she told me she was presenting and was nice enough to let me join in.
It's so much fun. I love that. And are you like, had piano lessons when you were younger and now you're taking more, or like absolute beginner?
Yeah, I took lessons. I'm in Portland, Oregon. So I took lessons with Carol Kilmer growing up, and then all through high school. And then when I did college, I took a break, but my senior year, I got to work with a teacher. I was a science major, but I just took lessons for fun. So, and now that I'm working, I have time to take them again. And it's just a nice outlet to everything else in life.
So I actually live and teach in Southeast Portland.
Oh, nice. Oh, very cool.
But I am an organ music teachers group.
Oh, okay. Do you know Carol?
I don't, but there are a lot of piano teachers in Portland.
That's true. Yeah, I met Colleen through the 10 grams, so that's how I found her. But
wonderful.
A good fit.
Thank you all for sharing. I'm excited to speak with you all. I'm also excited to see another Liz. Hi, Liz Nadella. I'm Liz.
Oh, we're Sugarland.
Sugarland is
Okay.
That's where my sister was at.
So this next game is a rhythm dictation game, but it's one that I play with my students in group classes, and they love it. And so those of you at home, you get to do it old school with a piece of paper and a pencil. But this is how we're getting our gift cards. Those of you in person, come gather around the table. You can also like just grab some, and there's, part of the table over here, we can put some space. This table right here, just wherever you want to lay out.
What are we doing here? You're grabbing a few cards?
Right, yeah, you can grab a collection of random cards. And then, are these triplets or being compound? That depends.
Oh, that's triplets. No, these are compound. Okay.
Yeah. You can always come back and get lots more.
So do they have to write anything online or anything else?
Yeah, they have piece of paper and a pencil.
These cards look very familiar to me.
Did you make these? I bought them and printed them and laminated them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
But I didn't design them. They were $6. Like, it's worth the $6 for your students. We are going to be working on assisting eliminating unnecessary tension, focused breathing work, intentionally interacting with our world, and meditation for a calm and focused mind as a musician. Liz Kohl is a pianist, instructor, collaborative musician, composer, and yoga instructor based here in Portland. And she holds degrees from UW and Baylor University, where she got her master's, where she was awarded a graduate assistantship. I didn't know that. That's cool. Liz has been a member of the faculty at PSU since 2016, where she teaches her original course material, Yoga for Musicians. And we get to hear some of that today. So without further ado,
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being here online. Thank you for being here in person. We're going to start with breath. So I'm going to count 4 going up. I guess I'll show it like this so it's more clear, and 4 going down. So this is your inhale, this is your exhale. Find a comfortable seat wherever you are. It's often nice to have grounded feet. Relax your arms in your lap and take an exhale. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the top. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause with no breath. Inhale. And exhale. Continue. Exhale. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Exhale.
You can open your eyes. Yoga is like music, the rhythm of the body, the melody of the mind, and the harmony of the soul creates the symphony of life. This is the great yoga teacher BKS Iyengar, who is one of the key people who brought yoga to the West. It's so exciting to me that I get to share this with all of you because this is something that does not get old for me. This is a course, Yoga for Musicians, that I created to find the balance and the interaction between being a musician and also being mindful. So these are two practices that have always been important to me. I have a background as a dancer, and that's actually how I came to yoga. And like Elizabeth was saying, during my master's degree, I was using the graduate assistantship teaching time to notice things about students and see what they needed from me. They were all coming from different backgrounds, and I started to notice over and over again a lot of unnecessary tension being held, somewhat lack of mindfulness just even in the way that we're approaching the piano, and I felt everyone here needs yoga. So halfway through my master's, I actually got certified to be a yoga teacher and did a 200-hour yoga teacher training between year 1 and year 2 of my graduate studies. So the question I'm often asked when I tell people, oh, I teach yoga for musicians, that's weird. Like people think, oh, that's interesting. Like, what does that mean? Why is it yoga for musicians? Well, what is yoga? Yoga is an ancient practice from India. And the word yoga can be translated as yoking. So this is the yoking of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Anyone can practice and benefit from yoga. Obviously, I would encourage that. But I have taught students and have noticed a big difference in how it affects musicians specifically. So the ways in which I have found yoga can impact musicians is through noticing and assisting in eliminating unnecessary tension, focused breath work, both to calm nerves, but also to help create more musical phrases, intentionally interacting with the world, which I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment, and meditation or mindfulness to create a more calm and focused mind. So this is something I do with my class at Portland State. I've been teaching there. This is my 5th year now teaching this course in the fall, in the winter, in the spring. So I've gotten to see a lot of different permeations of groups. So right now we are a group, even though you're over there and in your homes and we're here and in person, we are all in the same group. We all just breathed together. I actually used that as a way to have us all collectively feel like a group breathing together. And also a little bit for myself, I just got to do a really calming breath to start my presentation. So what I have my students do on the first day of class is hold out 8 fingers, 4 on each hand. So go ahead and do that for yourself right now. So there are 8 limbs or 8 different parts of yoga. These 4, which I really won't address too much, are deepening forms of meditation. So put that hand away. On this side, 2 of the fingers are practices within yourself and how you interact with the world. And these are called the yamas or niyamas. And these are disciplines like cleanliness, contentment, non-stealing, non-violence, good things that we would all agree on. So go ahead and put those 2 fingers away. We won't address those too much, but that is what I like to incorporate in the interacting with the world. The last two fingers are pranayama, which is the breath. Prana is the life force, what's keeping you alive right now. And asana, which is the postures. So most of the time when we are in the West practicing yoga, we're just tapping into those first 2. And that's what I'm going to do today because we don't have a lifetime of study, though you may start your lifetime study of yoga. So first, physicality. There is a physical importance to practicing yoga, like releasing arm weight. This is all pianists, isn't it? Are we all pianists here? Can you raise your hand if you're not a pianist or a piano instructor?
I'm a tuba player.
Huh?
I'm a tuba player.
Oh, beautiful.
Sorry, no.
You're welcome. So there is a physical importance, and finding the balance of tension and release in your body is critical because tension is not necessarily bad. We have to have some form of tension in order to keep ourselves upright, to be able to play an instrument, but unnecessary tension does not serve us. So I have found yoga to be a really helpful practice in finding ways in which I'm holding things in my body in a way that doesn't serve me and isn't helpful. The second component of yoga, the second limb, is the breath. And our breath as musicians is more significant than just getting oxygen to our muscles. It's also helpful in calming performance adrenaline, and it's also helpful in shaping musical phrases. This was a really revolutionary idea shared with me from a teacher who was explaining how could you play something musically if you couldn't breathe with it or sing it. That's a really, really fundamental part of the Russian school of music. So as we dive deeper into the levels of yoga, which I won't address too much, the yamas and the niyamas, our place in the universe is brought more into practice. These have to do with our ethical interactions with the world and with ourselves. Now, from a young age, I have never had a concert pianist I admired not be interested in other things outside of classical music. I hope you all have tons of interests outside of this bubble of classical music. Glenn Gould was fascinated with the North. He was Canadian. He was fascinated with animals. He would talk to them and maybe interact with them more comfortably than humans. Many of you might know my piano teacher growing up, Joanna Hodges. She was always studying new things. She was studying new dog breeds, new recipes, new languages. She was learning Russian towards the ends of her life. And she was an inspiration to me in that she wanted to learn and be curious about everything. So our work as musicians is enriched when we engage the outside world and are fascinated by things outside of music. They impact what we play, how we interpret, and other topics and interactions with people inform our playing, performing, arranging, composing, and practice habits in really real ways. The last four limbs of yoga, which I'll tell you the names of them because they're interesting, and these do not need to be religious practices. The last four, half of yoga, deepening practices are pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So these are different ways to calm, meditate the mind. Because I teach my class at Portland State to people of all faiths, all religions, all the people who do not have a prescribed religious belief, I try to allow this more spiritual component of yoga to be open enough to serve people who are religious or who are not religious. And this is one of the things I love about this beautiful teacher, B.K.S. Iyengar. This is his book, Light on Yoga. In this book, actually, I think it was in his book, Light on Life, the sequel to this, he had this quote, which brought me a lot of comfort because I was teaching yoga and getting my degree at a Baptist university. And I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable or like there was any conflict within their Christian beliefs that they weren't going to be able to do yoga. So this is a very helpful quote. Yoga is not meant to be a religion or a dogma from any one culture. While yoga sprang from the soil of India, it is meant as a universal path, a way open to all regardless of their birth and background. And one of the great ancient yoga teachers, Patanjali, who lived 2,500 years ago, described yoga as that, universal. So there are sometimes misgivings about like, oh, this is a religion. You have it from a yoga teacher that it doesn't have to be religious. You can take what you want and you can adapt and put your own beliefs and practices on it. The other thing that's significant to me is that even though you may be spiritual and not spiritual, religious, not religious, I don't think any of us can say we've never had a spiritual experience with music, whether that's with your own beliefs religiously or just the way that the music makes you feel. So I talk about all of this. I give the heads up because my class is a 10-week course. We really can just get an overview of what yoga is. And every week there's a journal question that I ask to help students reflect. So my first question is always, what does your cultural lens inform you about yoga? What do you think yoga is? Like, who do you see doing yoga? Is it a woman? Is it a man in India in an ashram? Is it some hippie with like dreadlocks and a lot of like essential oils? Is it a really like wealthy person living in a fancy city in like fancy yoga clothes? So what ideas do you bring to yoga? So I would ask you to reflect on that and just consider how that's going to impact the way we feel going forward. I want to move towards talking about the handout, which I'm realizing we actually don't have. If you haven't gotten this handout, you can take a picture with your phone or screen capture, but otherwise, here's one for everyone. also want to express some gratitude to my dear friend Angelica Hesse, who designed my, she turned my drawing. This is my original graphic of the treble clef with, this is a symbol for Om, which is a chant. This is my,
Hold on just one. For you online, if you want a copy of this, I'll put my phone number in the chat box and go ahead and text me, message me or something, and then I can take a picture and send it to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Brenda. Yeah, so I'm really grateful to my friend Angelica Hesse, who created this. She's an amazing graphic designer. So this is my symbol for yoga for musicians. So, breath. We're going to start with the breath, and we've already all breathed together, but I want to talk about 3 different kinds of breaths. And I realized last night, all of you can do these breaths easily from where you are. It was like a light bulb moment to realize we're all going to be wearing masks and trying to breathe. And some of these breaths, you actually need to touch your nose. So do whatever you need to feel comfortable, whether that's like moving your mask down for a moment or just like sneaking your hand underneath. This will be interesting. I've never presented with masks. We're gonna tap into that breath again. I'm gonna give you 3 different kinds of breath for 3 different kinds of moods. So the first one, which we've already done, is breathing in and out through your nose. Breathing in and out through your nose calms your central nervous system. So this is a great, like, I'm feeling impatient, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm dealing with a difficult student, I'm scared, nervous before I perform. So relax your body, notice your shoulders, see if you can drop them. Maybe move your neck a little bit, see how it's feeling. And again, you can close your eyes if you're comfortable and just start to slowly inhale through your nose. And exhale slow, slow, slow through the nose. And just notice how that feels to tap into this. See if you can imagine and visualize oxygen coming in slowly, slowly, and then breathing out. Perhaps you can even see with your eyes closed and imagine this air around you. You can open your eyes. So that is our calming breath. The next breath is different in that it is heated, it is intense. This breath is called Ujjayi breath. So we're going to pretend to fog up a mirror, and we're going to use our hand as that imaginary mirror. So take an inhale through your nose and then exhale like you're fogging up a mirror. Continue. As loud as you can make it. Then seal your lips, do the same breath. So this should be almost like a growling. It's often called an ocean breath. Go ahead and let that go. Breathe in and out through your nose, calm, smooth. This breath is helpful to actually help you be warmer. I've used this when walking around in the winter. And it's also helpful to create heat and fire, and it actually gets you like sweating quicker if you want. You also should not use this breath all the time in your life. That would not be helpful to just be creating heat on heat on heat. In fact, you should let it go if it's getting to be too much. That is a really helpful way to focus, create intensity. So if you need like a bit of a wake up or a bit of a heat up, it's really helpful. The last breath is a really interesting one because all of you right now are breathing more dominantly through one nostril, most likely, and it tends to change throughout the day. So our right nostril is our more strong, yang, or masculine energy. Your left nostril is the more yin, calm, feminine energy. Which one are you breathing through? Are you trying to breathe through both evenly now? So the way that we're going to tap into this alternate nostril breathing is take 2 fingers, your index and your middle finger, touch your nose and cover your nostril with your thumb. It might be helpful to make sure your nose is clear, give a little sniff. So touch and start to breathe slowly, first through the left nostril, noticing how that feels. Weird to constrict our breath, but we're getting used to this with masks. Make the breath slow. Take an inhale. Exhale slow. Then take an inhale. Exhale, switch sides. Cover up that left nostril. Notice, is this one easier? Which one were you more breathing through? You can soften your eyes. You don't need to close your eyes, but just soften your eyes. Take an inhale. Exhale, other side. Find a flow for yourself. Inhale. Exhale, switch. Go with your own breath. Even the way we move our hand, can you do that thoughtfully? Once you feel even, go ahead and close your eyes and just notice your breath. Release both of your hands. You might feel an evenness now in your nostrils. This is helpful for reducing stress. This is helpful for tapping into which side of your body is feeling stronger right now, the peaceful, calm, or the stronger, more intense side of you. So these are my 3 different breaths that you're welcome to use for different purposes. In and out through the nose, slow is very calming to the central nervous system. Ujjayi, that heated, constricted throat, is more intense in creating fire. And then alternate nostril breathing is helpful to balance us and also to relieve stress. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is movement. So I specifically did not come in yoga clothes. I wanted this to be accessible to whatever place you're in, whether it's in a car, whether it's standing, whether it's seated. I am actually a big fan of showing how much we can do when we're seated, but I do want everyone to stand right now. So please stand if you're able, and check in with your body. Feel where your feet are on the ground, either seated or standing. Relax your arms, have your palms face forward. Notice your shoulders, draw them up by your ears, and then drop them forward. See how that feels? Draw them up and then drop them back. See how that feels? Maybe you want to start moving your neck. That's pretty normal once we start tapping into the shoulders. Maybe roll the shoulders a little bit back and forth, side to side. And then come to stillness as you're ready. Close your eyes, inhale. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Allow the back of your neck to be heavy. Inhale, roll your left ear towards the left. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Inhale, roll your right ear to the right. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Then inhale, slowly come up from the back of the head. Have ease in your chin, and then open your eyes. And then we're going to try this seated, and this time I'm actually going to face the piano so that you can see the back of my head. Within my thesis that I wrote, I'm talking about yoga, but I'm also talking about other ways that we can notice our bodies. One of the biggest ones is Alexander technique. Show of hands, who's heard of Alexander technique? Ooh, yay. So one of the biggest things that I learned from Alexander technique was that I tend to dip my head forward instead of drawing back. So find this point on the back of your head, just touch it for yourself and push it forward. Notice how that feels, and then draw it back. Then try to draw it way, way, way far back and find your evenness. Find something that's easy and seated over your spine. When I draw my head up in this flow of movement, I'm drawing up from this place. I'm not drawing up like this with my neck, but like this with my neck. So go ahead and try this again. Seated, maybe palms up, relaxed in your lap. Close your eyes, take an inhale. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Allow the back of your head to be heavy. Inhale, right ear rolls to the right. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Inhale, left ear rolls to the left. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Now inhale, feeling from that point in the back of your head as you draw up, and then open your eyes. I've been given the analogy of drawing up that place at the back of your head like a string attached to a balloon that's just floating you up. I find that really, really helpful in feeling buoyant and easy instead of static. So there's no such thing as sitting with a straight spine. Our spines are not straight. I like to use the word tall spine with my students because words are important. Straight connotates an idea that you're not able to move. Tall means you're here and present, but you can move from this place. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the spine and movements of the spine. And these are really helpful for you as teachers and also for yourself. There are two main movements of the spine. We could talk about twists. Twists, I don't feel as significant with teaching and with myself. But what I've found is that movements of the spine that are back bends are very awakening, very invigorating, and forward folds are very relaxing, very passive. So if you have a student who's feeling tired and you have a soft bench like this is wonderful and amazing, and it needs to be a student who's young enough that this is going to feel good for their back, I give all of my students permission to, hey, I want to do a back bend. I want to take a break. I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling unfocused. I want to like revitalize myself. So please don't try this in a chair. Try it on here. You can scoot your bum off of the chair, keep your knees under the piano, and just let them lay back and reach back. And this is really easy and effective for children. And then the knees help bring them back up. That's a really great way to get refreshed and feel like you literally got a new perspective. You just saw your piano studio upside down. So that can show up for all of us in doing back bends from where we're seated or from standing. When we're waking up in the morning, we don't like stand up and like, oh, it's a new day, like I'm gonna fold. We wanna stretch, we wanna be big with our body. So from where you're seated, bring your hands behind you. If you're in a folding chair, scoot yourself to the top of the chair so it's your sit bones, and put your hands behind you. Your fingertips can face forward, and just open the chest, shoulders back. Do something that feels good. You can do both sides, lean side to side. You can look up and back. Always be careful and supportive of your neck, and then come upright and see how that feels. The other thing you can do, so that's for students who might be more tired. If you have students who are like, energy, energy, energy. I'm a big fan as a piano instructor and as a very enthusiastic person. I love enthusiasm. If the kid wants to move a lot, I'm like, do 20 jumping jacks. Like, I want you to move and feel free as a child. But if you were teaching a group or you really need there to be like some calming focus, ask your kids to stand up and touch their toes. That is the sneakiest way to get them to do a forward fold, which is a very calming gesture for the body. So our spine, when it's back, opens us up, brightens us. When we fold, it is more passive, it is more calming. So from where you're seated, put your hands on your lap and just start to fold and slowly come down as far as it's comfortable. And the biggest thing here is that I want you to let go of your neck. See how much you can drop and notice. Notice how your breath changes. You're a little compressed right now. And then start to slowly come up. Do you feel how we shifted? It feels like more soothing in here versus a back bend, which wakes us up. So those are two ways in which you can really, in a matter of moments, work with a student or with yourself to check in and reset yourself. The spine is the origination of every yoga posture. A strong spine means a strong body. I also want to point out where the spine is. So go ahead and point your fingers in your ears, like you really don't want to hear what I have to say. That is the top of your spine, in between your fingers. That is where your spine connects to your skull. Your tailbone, sits bones, feel into your sits bones from where you're sitting, maybe lean, rock one side and the other. And then pull your head forward, kind of what we were doing before. And then pull your head back. See how far back you can get it without moving your shoulders too much. Then find that easy medium spot. Release your hands. Nice. I always think it's important for my students to have a visual of what their body is actually doing. So I will say at this point, since I'm talking about anatomy, there are two books that I brought. One is my textbook for my class, and it's called Yoga Anatomy by Leslie Kaminoff. I'll show this a little bit closer. Leslie Kaminoff wrote Yoga Anatomy. And these are beautiful because these were photographs taken of people doing yoga postures. That's a really cool one. They're doing Bakasana or crow pose. And then the drawings in here show what muscles are actually being used in each posture. It's really, really cool. This would be a fun book to read if you do yoga, if you don't do yoga. It's a really great visualization. This one is a little bit more intense. This is from my yoga teacher training. The key muscles of yoga. I would say this is maybe a little bit more for the doctors or the people who are really into anatomy with their yoga. Yeah, these feel like medical level anatomy. I have a few more books that I'll show you all later. But I would like to move, and I want to make it clear that I am a vinyasa yoga instructor. So when I teach a class, it is more on the physically intense side, but yoga can be practiced by anyone. One of the most important and significant teachers, this teacher I've quoted several times, BKS Iyengar, specifically brought yoga to the West. And his yoga is often known as prop yoga because he uses straps, blocks, blankets, chairs, anything he can so that everyone of every body type and every gender can do yoga. So this is when yoga was honestly, it's weird to think that yoga is now thought of as being a feminine thing. It was mainly practiced by men in India, guru to student, for years and years and years. So even this is kind of weird that I'm teaching us all in a class. Iyengar is, it's actually a style of yoga that is not what I teach. I do have friends who are trained in Iyengar, and I would be happy. I realized that I could share with all of you that I teach a donation class over Zoom on Thursday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. So if any of you are interested, it is a more intense vinyasa flow, but you're all welcome to attend. And I can share my email if anyone would like to, or I guess you all could share your emails with me. So in vinyasa, vinyasa means to flow. And I was drawn to this because I was a dancer and I loved finding the flow of breath with the flow of movement. So we're gonna flow and move. And I'm not gonna do a full sun salutation or Surya Namaskar. Surya Namaskar is just the Sanskrit. Sanskrit is similar to Latin in that it's a dead language, so we don't really know how it's pronounced. Surya Namaskar is a sun salutation. Chandra Namaskar is a moon salutation. So Chandra is moon, Surya is sun. The full sun salutation, I bet all of you have seen, and I will demonstrate it. I'm trying to think of like the best angle. Yep, got enough space here. No, this is great, this is great. Okay, so a full sun salutation in close. It's an inhale, it's an exhale, fold. It's an inhale halfway up, exhale, fold. It's a high plank to a low plank. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog, and forward. Inhale up, exhale down, inhale up, and exhale down. So that's a full sun salutation. We're gonna do a mini Surya Namaskar or sun salutation. You can do this seated, you can do this standing. So choose your own adventure. Relax your arms on either side of you. And remember that if you stop breathing, you have ceased doing yoga. It's 1/8 of what yoga is. Always listen to your body first. Yeah, and make sure you have enough room for your arms. So we're gonna take a big expansive inhale first. So take an exhale right now. Inhale, sweep your fingertips out and up, big expansive. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Inhale, fingertips reach out and up. Then exhale, fold either over your legs or into your lap. Let your head go. Inhale, halfway lift. Touch your legs wherever you are. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweep your fingertips out and up to bring you to standing or to a seat. Hands come to heart center. And we'll flow like that again. Inhale, sweep out and up. Reach expansively. Exhale, fold. Drop your head, drop your neck. Inhale, halfway, strong spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweep out and up. I'll continue exhaling, hands come to heart center. I'll continue moving, but this time move with your own breath. Last time, I'll show you what this looks like in a seat. Inhale. Exhale. Inhaling to come up. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Really nice. You can take a seat. Because most of us are pianists and all of us probably have to do a lot of talking or typing, texting in our lives, I want to talk a little bit about the wrists. So one of the ways in which I find it's really helpful to tap into eliminating unnecessary tension is to stretch the flexors and the extensors of the forearm. So go ahead and bring your palm facing down towards me and very gently, don't start with the fingers, but the palm, and just press into that. Yeah, press until you feel something in the forearm. Notice your breath, notice your shoulders. Did they come up? Can you drop them down? How can you make this easy? It doesn't have to be high up, it could be low, wherever it feels good. If you want, if it feels good, very gently, you can press towards the fingers. But if you feel enough here at the palm, just stay there, that's fine. And as you're ready, release that. Shake your hand out, let it be floppy and easy. And then flip the other way and press from the top of your hand, maybe all the way down to your fingers, feeling that stretch on the top of your forearm. Again, notice your shoulders. Did you lift them to lift your arm up? Can you let them go? Pressing, squeezing, doing whatever feels good. Our bodies are different one to another, but our bodies are different every day. Our bodies change based on how we're feeling physically and also how we're feeling emotionally. So notice these things. Yoga is the yoking of the body, mind, and spirit. As you're ready, you can let that go. And then come into the other side. Palm faces towards me. You can start with a bent elbow if you like. Maybe straighten it, maybe not. Experiment with what feels good. What's nice is I can look at someone and actually not know their experience, like only you know what you're feeling right now. So breathe, notice. If you know yourself and it's easier to feel your body with your eyes closed, you're always welcome to do that. Again, you can press down to the fingers only if you like. You can keep your hand at the palm. And as you're ready, let that go. Shake that hand out, coming to the other side. And I really like to squeeze my hand as well, almost turning this into a self-massage. I'm a big believer in that. Notice your shoulders. Drop them down. And go ahead and let that go. Drop your arms by your side. See if you can let them be heavy and just hang at your side. How do they feel different? Probably some new blood flow. This one's the most interesting. We're not going to get too crazy with the standing balances. I will show you what these are. The reason I talk specifically about standing balances is because they are in one place. And definitely here, if you're wearing heels, you'll need to take your shoes off if you're comfortable. Standing balances help us feel rooted and grounded. I also find for myself, when I practice headstands, that makes me feel incredibly rooted and grounded. That used to be my practice break. I'd be playing big Liszt and Mendelssohn pieces and be like, whoa, I need to feel even more connected to the piano. So I'm gonna come over here in my practice room and do a headstand. Feel grounded and then come back. And I feel a lot more grounded, it's a lot easier for me to be in the keys when I have felt the ground and flipped myself upside down. Has anyone ever read the book, A Soprano on Her Head? It's about a soprano finding her best voice, literally upside down. So I fully relate to that book. So we're gonna come into one standing balance. I give 3 examples and I will show you what each of those are. I guess I'll go in reverse order. So one of them is called Dancer, Natarajasana. So you're standing and you put a hand up, and you don't need to do this with me, I'm just gonna show it. Bring your right foot up. He's got a soprano on his head. Thanks for sharing that, David. He's got the visual. That's wonderful. And yoga anatomy. Oh my gosh, David has my library. That's so exciting. The key muscles of the yoga. Wow. I feel like I need to give David some stickers. I
So
left them at home.
David is a friend of mine, but he's in Southern California, and he is all about yoga and piano. So I was glad he checked in. Go ahead.
So David, do you know my friend
He's muted.
and
You need to
pedagogy?
mute.
Do you know my friend and pedagogy advisor for my master's, Leslie McAllister?
David, you'll have to unmute.
Yeah, you're muted, David. We can't hear you.
Yes, I was wondering where Colleen was because she invited me, and then she wasn't in the screen. So but I realized now she's there to give her presentation.
Thank you so
Hello,
much.
everybody. I'm in San Diego. It's great to be here.
Yay. Oh, I love it. Yeah. So this is also a great book. I will say I haven't read this. This just came out recently, but this is my pedagogy advisor from Baylor, and that was probably one of the reasons I was so drawn to going to Baylor for a number of reasons, but it was pretty cool to have a pedagogy advisor be a certified yoga instructor, and then I became one, and in her first book, I actually modeled for her first book some of the yoga postures. It was just a chapter in her first book, and then it became a whole book. So I would totally recommend if you're interested in this. There are a lot of resources online since we're talking
Does she
about
play with her toes like that? No.
I have one trick where I can play upside down, but that's just with my fingers. I want to stick to fingers. This is also a great book. It's a totally different style of yoga, but this is by Mia Olson. She's a flute professor at Berkeley. Well, they say woodwind, but I know that she teaches flute. And she is a Kripalu yoga instructor, which is a different, I think of the different flavors of yoga, the different lineages, kind of the way that we might think about different denominations within Christianity. They are perhaps similar and have a lot of overlap, but are also very different. Like if you went to a Catholic church, a charismatic church, an Episcopalian church, a Lutheran church, you would have a fully different experience. And the same goes for yoga. So know what you're getting into and go and find something that works for you. Okay, so balance. So coming back to this is dancer's pose or Natarajasana. So you bring your foot into your hand. You grab the I should take off my shoes. I'm like not taking my own advice. Ideally, you practice yoga barefoot. I'm not going to ask anyone here to do that. You bring your foot into your hand. You reach your left foot up, and then you kick as you reach forward. So this is dancer's pose. We're not going to do that one. The next one is Garudasana. This one's actually great for the arms, so I am going to have everyone try the arms, but not the legs. So take your fingertips, sweep them out and up, and then bring your right arm underneath the left. Yeah, and that's great where it is camera-wise. Thanks, Brenda. And if you can't reach, you can grab opposite shoulder blades. So if you can reach your hands, don't link them. Try to press the palms together. You can draw this shape up. Yeah, and if you have a jacket, that might be helpful to take off. Jackets can get in the way. So the higher you can cross on the elbows, the better. We're wanting to get into the openness of the shoulder blades, the scapula. And draw the shape up as you inhale. Exhale, drop the shoulders. So do this. This is the variation of this. Either one works. The full posture is hooking the leg. That's just so you know. Garudasana, eagle pose. As you're ready, release that. Inhale out and up. Left hand comes underneath this time. And hook, the higher up you can cross on the arms, that's where the twisting comes from. You can also grab opposite shoulders and feel that space behind your scapula. Notice your breath. And then let that go. Inhale out and up. And hands to heart center. So the one we are going to practice all together is much more accessible. This is called tree pose. So coming to standing, you're going to bring your weight into your right foot. And your left knee is going to bend, so everyone can stand. If you're wearing heels, you have to take them off. So bend your left knee and just open that hip, and you can either touch your heel to that standing foot, or you can bring it to your calf. Never put it on your knee. I'm not even going to try putting it in my inner thigh because my pants are not flexible. And then bring your hands to heart center. So this is your strong tree. If you like, if you want more, you can start to reach your fingertips out and up. Vrikshasana is the name of this Sanskrit. If you're feeling good here, if you want to test your balance more, close your eyes. I never do that when I'm teaching. I don't want to fall. Falling is good. Falling teaches us where our limits are, where we can press more to one side. As you're ready, bring your hands back to heart center. Left knee comes forward first, then release. You can press into your knees. Feel that in your calves. And then come to the other side. Bring your weight into your left foot this time. Bend your right knee. And then twist it open. So the hip opens and you can either just touch the heel to the ankle or bring it to your calf. Never put it on your knee or the inner thigh. You can bring your hands to heart center. Find something calm for your eyes to focus on in front of you. Make sure it's not doing anything weird to the back of your neck. Release, feel back. Notice how that standing foot feels. Strong, stable. If you like, you can reach your fingertips out and up, grow your tree. Notice your shoulders. Can you draw them down while you reach up? You can close your eyes if you like. You can come back as you like. Draw that knee forward and release. Cool. Take a seat. I really like to be a conversational presenter. I feel like this is the longest I've maybe ever talked. So the last thing I'll say before I open up to questions is my last point on my flyer is about Shavasana. Shavasana is the final resting posture, and it's often what people talk about, almost like a joke to me, like, oh, I love that last posture in yoga. It's where you just like lay down and take a nap. Yeah, that's the most important posture of yoga. The whole point of yoga is to bring yourself to more mindfulness, more calm, and that is when your body soaks up all the benefits of yoga. Sanskrit names of yoga postures have something to do with animals, elements, other things. Shavasana actually means corpse pose. So this is like a mini death. Being so relaxed that there's just nothing. Like you just get to be there and have nothing. That is one of the most relaxing things. Even though it may feel morbid, it gives you the chance to be reborn at the end of a yoga class. So you can literally arise again. I often find when I take morning yoga classes that it gives me a second chance to like wake up. Like, oh, I can restart my day now. If I came here in a rush and I'm feeling frazzled, I start over and it feels like waking up. So we're not going to do Shavasana. I'm not going to ask everyone to lay down on the ground. But I would like to end the way that I often end yoga practices, which is something we've already done. So find a comfortable seat, relax your arms in your lap, and close your eyes. Come back into your breath. When I teach yoga, I invite students to pick a word that's significant to them, something that's helpful for them to keep their mind focused on. Might be peace, love, breath, focus. So you can pick something for yourself to think on right now. Just breathe with that word, thinking about what it means to you. Soften into your knees. Feel ease in your hips. Notice the heaviness of your torso. Allow your fingers, your wrists to be relaxed. Imagine water falling off of your shoulders, just an ease and a flow. Take an inhale. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest, heavy in the back of the neck. Inhale, left ear rolls to the left. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Inhale, right ear rolls to the right. Exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Then imagining the back of the head like it's attached to a balloon by a string, slowly rising up. With your eyes closed and just feeling the space around you, feel the air on your skin. Feel where your body is touching the ground, your seat. Take a final inhale, sweeping your fingertips out and up, and just feeling the space but not seeing it. Exhale, press your hands to heart center, thumbs come to your sternum. And you can softly open your eyes low. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are all yoga teachers because your body is your best teacher. So listen to your body, breathe. And namaste means hello, I greet you, I notice you. And that is why a lot of yoga teachers end by saying namaste. And I would welcome any questions or any comments that people have on their experiences with yoga or their thoughts on yoga or any ways that they've practiced in their own lives.
I have a question. Now, when I practice, or when I used to practice.
Do you mean practice?
No, yoga practice.
Okay, oh, cool, yeah. Yoga practice.
Debbie, so they can hear better.
Okay.
Can you, yeah.
When I practice my yoga, or used to practice yoga, I'm very well aware of my wrist, because it's very important that we protect our wrists. So I tend to lean on my palm when I do like down positions, rather than staying on the knuckles, because that's what I hear the most from people, like, you know, they get sore fingers, non-magicians. And I make sure that I warm up my wrist. Is there any other, or do you have any tips for pianists in general to warm up our fingers or hands and arms before we actually start practicing yoga?
Yeah, I would speak more to, in the actual practice of yoga, especially, so Debbie's asking about wrists, and there are a lot of postures in which we are on our hands, and we do have to be really conscientious because you can put a lot of weight on your wrists, and that is not helpful for us as pianists or people who are typing on computers. So when I do downward facing dog, I teach students to be more focused on pressing into the index and the thumb side of the hand instead of the pinky. And one of the best ways to get into this is to actually do this against a wall standing. I think I can do this in a way where you can see what I'm doing. We'll see. But everyone over here can like look at what I'm doing. If you put your hand here, you can practice without too much pressure on the wrists, pressing into this side more than the pinky, and practicing dropping your head, because what I notice is that a lot of students will be more in like push-up, where the weight is even between the hands and the feet instead of pressing their torso back. So that isn't the biggest thing for downward facing dog. So spreading the fingertips wide and pressing more evenness between all of the hands takes less pressure, puts less pressure on the wrists. But the flexor and extensor stretch, I would say, is one of the best. The other one that I do when I teach yoga, I will usually teach 3 sun salutations, like the full ones. And then I will do this like inhale, and then exhale, grab your wrist and really pull it, and then relax your head, like drop it. So you all could try this if you like. So inhale, exhale, grab your left wrist and really pull that. Feel a heaviness in this top arm that you're holding, like maybe if you let go, it would drop. Let your head drop into this nook. So all the work is being done by the right arm. Really feel a heaviness in this left arm. Then inhale, come up, switch sides, really grab that right wrist, almost like you're giving it a massage. Drop your head. Feel an openness in the chest. And then inhale, come up. Exhale, bring your hands behind you, bring your hands to your low back, and come into a back bend. And I usually do this standing, but you can do it seated. And then slowly come forward, forward fold. Drop your head. And inhale to come up. So that's another way in which I incorporate like flow, but I'm still using, I think it's really good and powerful for us to be pressing into the wrist. I feel really lucky that at Portland State, Lisa Marsh is just nationally known as someone who helps pianists and other musicians prevent injury or deal with existing injury. So this is definitely not my area of expertise. It's something I'm very aware of, but we actually have a whole department within Portland State that is dedicated to musician wellness. and I am the yoga for musicians person. So if you're interested in more body mapping and like awareness of the whole body, other anatomical things, Lisa Marsh, I believe, studied with Barbara Conable, body mapping, and she certifies people to become body mappers. Yeah, great question. Yeah. Any other thoughts on yoga? Any questions about the different parts of yoga?
Well, as a guest, I can say I met Colleen in 1979 when we went to Biola together, and we graduated in '83. And it was after or during, I think it was my senior years. We were both getting ready for our senior recitals in November, and she was telling me about aerobics and how it was helping her. And I had a reverse curve in my cervical spine from childhood. My neck and shoulders were all frozen. And she said, oh, you should go take aerobics. And that's how I got into yoga. I started taking aerobic classes based on her advice, fell in love with it. Then I got into stretching, and then I thought, oh, yoga's like stretching. And the next thing I knew, my yoga teacher said, oh, will you teach my class for me while I go for training? And I was working at 24-Hour Fitness. So that was many years ago, 1983. So I did yoga for a long time, but it's such a wonderful thing, but you have to be careful that you have good form when you do yoga, because if you do it wrong for a long period of time, you will hurt yourself over time. If you like you're talking about down dog, if the wrists have too much pressure, and no pain, no gain. We have a lot of misconceptions from fitness. And anyway, a lot of what you said is I was Iyengar trained by a teacher that knew BKS. She used to go to India. Oh, she'd come back and talk about Gurji and her whatever. It's amazing. So I had a long history of this, and I could go on and on. The last thing I'll say is my website is called pianofitness.com. And I have a whole thing I made for the YMCA called Mind Mapping the Brain-Body Connection that I created from Tom Mark's book. I'm sure you're familiar with Every Pianist. I got that 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And it changed my life. In fact, that's the last thing I'll close with is, in June of 2012, I was introduced to Tom Mark's book. I called Colleen. I was coming to Portland for 2012 International Festival, and I ended up meeting Tom Mark and having a lesson with him and all this stuff all 10 years ago. It was just a phenomenal experience. So anyway, I'm so excited to be here and listen, and I'm loving what I'm hearing.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, I feel like you've said so many things I want to comment on. Thomas Marks was one of my pieces of research in my thesis, and I actually graduated with my master's in 2012, and he is, I believe, in the Portland area, or was. I also think you're bringing up such an important point that is something I really stress with my students, and that is always listen to your body. There is this sense in which I need to do this thing that my teacher told. No, you don't. You could come to my class. I invite students to come to my class and lay down in Shavasana the whole time. That is the most brave thing that you can possibly do, because it takes away your ego, which is actually one of the basic tenets of yoga. Anyone who's ever said to me, this is nothing against you, Park, oh, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible. You do yoga to become flexible. You don't do yoga because you don't have, oh, I can't do bodybuilding, I'm not strong. Yeah, you do bodybuilding to get strong. We do yoga to let go of our arrogance, our pride about our own selves, and even day to day. Like, there are days that I can't do a posture that I could do the other day, and that form just takes a different shape on that day. It's also funny when people tell me oh, yoga, so this thing that you could never get hurt in. Yes, you can get hurt. It is a physical activity. You can absolutely get hurt doing yoga. So come at it with the sense that you get to listen to your body first. I happen to be a guide speaking to you, but you are the teacher. Your body is your teacher. Yeah. Elizabeth, what were you going to say? Oh, the pictures of the back.
That was great.
Sorry.
What initially got you into yoga?
Oh, dancing.
Oh.
Actually, Actually, so the first yoga class I ever took, I started doing Running Start at Clark College in Vancouver, and I took a yoga class, and there's still some part of me that wants to go meet that woman, because she was an odd duck, and the way that she taught yoga was really cool and revolutionary for my little 16-year-old self. But I would say when I really got into yoga was studying dance at University of Washington. I was studying piano, but I was also starting to complement that with dance classes and ended up getting a dance minor. And one of the classes I took was vinyasa for dancers. And it was like this beautiful complement to like the ballet and the modern dance that I was doing throughout the week. And it really got into my body and my breath. And I've just been exploring yoga ever since. And halfway through my master's, I really was like, oh, all my students need to be doing yoga. And my advisor, Dr. Leslie McAllister, said in my syllabus, I could tell my students anything. I could require anything that I wanted as long as it was in my syllabus. And I'm like, well, they have to do yoga. It doesn't have to be my class, but any yoga, and reflect on how it makes them feel. So within my thesis, there are actually observations from students who I think found like an impact in their life or their practicing or their well-being, and I include those. Yeah, great question. Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, Liz.
I just have to say, just a little bit that you have shown us now, I feel terrific, and I am do tons of stretches and exercises and limbering things and walking and so on. So every day, and I did the whole routine that I do in the morning, but just this little bit, man, I just feel like a totally different person. Like every muscle, everything is just so relaxed. I just have to remember it all now.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that feedback. That's really sweet of you. I'm very open.
Also, I have to interject. I've also taken many yoga classes, but this has been more helpful to me than any other class. I just have to say that.
Thank you. That's high praise, and gosh, do I appreciate it. Yeah, I always hope that I write my outline in a way where you can kind of remember what we did, but I do teach a yoga class you could attend. It's definitely more physically intense, and I am open to the idea of recording and sharing like a more practical, a more in the world kind of yoga practice. You're inspiring me to want to do that. I will say really quickly, if I could type in, so in the chat box, I'm just gonna type in my website. I also have a YouTube channel, which I'd be honored if you all checked out. I've got original compositions and some student arrangements of classical pieces. So my website is just Liz, L-I-Z, my last name Kohl, pianist.com. And that is also my YouTube channel. It's my Instagram, it's my email, it's everything. My Venmo. So lizkohlpianist.com, and my YouTube channel is Liz Kohl Pianist if you'd like to see me play. In fact, one of my compositions is actually about chakras, which I did not even address today, but I do talk about those in my class at PSU. So thank you all so much for having me. Thank you for your questions, your attention, your movement, your breath. And let's get masked up again.
Yay! Hey, Liz.
Yes?
My right foot can touch my head.
See?
Is that good?
I taught you so well. You are flexible.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us online. Thank you, Liz.
Oh, you did a good job.
And we are going to do another workshop in May. We have two other wonderful presenters, one of which is Rob Melton. I think Leanne works with him. But anyways, so thank you so much. And with that, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. It's gorgeous.
This is going to be recorded.
It is recorded, and we're going to post it on our YouTube channel. We'll email the link.